Yeah, we're live. Hopefully, the connection will be a lot better tonight. So we cross. You can see it. We're mixing it up a little bit. I got a little different view. Got some cool motors here. Got some, I don't know, crazy crazy stuff going on here in a big block. Got some sort of Mopar over here in the background. Lots of cool stuff here at West Tech. So we're gonna try something new. I got my camera mounted in another remote spot. We might try to move that down just a little bit. Let's see what we got going on. Look. Yeah, what's up? Let's see what we can do here. Get our camera in a little top secret area. There we go. Okay, what's up, guys? So, you can see, here, take a look up there. There's a dragster up there. Super awesome. Yeah, West Tech's got a lot of cool stuff. So we got a lot of cool things going on tonight. We're going to talk about the Barra, the Ameri-Barra. I've also got a 360 Dodge Magnum. We can take a walk out and take a look at that. That's out in the truck. Picked it up from the wrecking yard. So I had an interesting 24 hours. I'm hydrating. My son's birthday was yesterday, so I drove home from West Tech last night and went and spent the night with them and got to go to dinner and stuff, and then drove back this morning and made it back here. And so for you guys that don't know, that's a 450-mile trip each way. And so I made it back here just in time to get to the wrecking yard right before they close, and had a guy pull out a motor, one of the Magnums, the 360 Magnums, had him pull that out and set it aside for me. And so I could just sneak in under the wire before they close and get that motor loaded up and get over here. So hopefully we'll be running the 360 here before too long as well. But, and I don't know if you can see it. I'm gonna raise you guys up here so you guys can take a look over. Where is it? There it is, over there. You can just see it, like right over where my finger is pointing. Over, right at the end of my finger, right there. The 4.2 liter, the 4200 Atlas is taken off the dyno, and we pulled the head off. It's got a bunch of bad valves and stuff. And I was talking to the machine shop that I do all the stuff with, Derek down at L&R, and he said, yeah, it's pretty normal that the seats erode and the valves go away, and that, you know, it's just bad news, and they don't seal anymore. So we're gonna fix that one. Excuse me, but the plan is now, and I'm glad. Well, I'm kind of glad this happened. What I want to do now is, instead of running a 2006 motor, I'm actually going to run the early one, the 2005, with the, you know, poor flowing cylinder head, but the little better crank and yada yada yada. We'll get into all that stuff. I had a long conversation with Calvin, and we kind of agree that I think that even though the 2006 and later stuff is rated at a different power level than the early one, it's supposed to have a better flowing head and maybe a change in compression and things. But it's only rated by, it's only the power output, the factory power output is only different by 16 or 17 horsepower or something. So it's not a big change. But what I want to do is I want to run the early motor and then do a head swap to the late motor. And then there's also changes in cams. So we'll do those changes one at a time. It'll allow me to do more NA changes before we actually get a ported head on there. And we'll probably port the later head because we know that it's better and we know that it'll flow a lot. And then also we'll do we'll get some cams from Schneider, some reground cams from Schneider, and try those. And then while we're there, we're also going to try boost. Calvin's run both of those with boost already, and he knows that they both work because boost works on every motor. So it doesn't really make any difference what you're trying. Obviously, it's always better to have more NA power when you're doing that, but you know, and I've been a big proponent of that. You know, start with more NA power. That way you make whatever power you want to make at a lower boost level. But the reality is that if one is 15, like in the case of the 06 and the 05, if one of them is 15 horsepower better, that's like a pound of boost, maybe less than that, maybe a half a pound. So if you can go like this, and you know, I don't understand why guys wouldn't be using the earlier motors too, because I know when I go to the wrecking yard, just like it's a similar thing I see with the LS motors. If you go to the wrecking yard, if I go to the wrecking yard where we go get all of our motors, and I see, I go walk around to all the LS motors. I always check them because I'm always looking for the diamond, the diamond in the rough. But every one of them is a 706 or an 862 head, so we know it's a 4.8 or 5.3, and the vast majority of those are Gen 3 motors. Just like with the 4200, when I went over the last few times to the wrecking yard and did trips, we saw a lot of Trailblazer motors. We saw a lot of these 4200s, and the vast majority of them were the early ones. And I think what guys are doing is, just like with the Gen 6, I mean, just like with the Gen 4 LS stuff, everybody wants the Gen 4 LS stuff because we know that the rods are better. But if you take a look at my Big Bang stuff, you know, guys that are doing NA motors, oh, I got to have the Gen 4 internals because they're stronger. And they are. But if you're making a 400 or 500 horsepower NA LS motor, you're 700 or 800 horsepower away from where you'd need to worry about the strength of the Gen 3 internals. That's not an issue. And I think we probably see the same kind of things with the 4200. So it'll be interesting to try, regardless of what we find out. And it's the same thing with the cranks. And we may see this. I want to find out, but you know, the strength of the Gen 4 stuff versus the Gen 3 stuff in the LS. On the crank side of the 4200, we have the fully counterweighted crank and then the not fully counterweighted crank. But at what point do we run into the strength limit of the crank? I've never broken a crank from strength. I've never bent a crank. I've never damaged a crank just from the amount of power that we put to it. If you look at what we did on the insane Big Bang stuff with the LS, that's not a forged crank. That's a cast crank. I mean, it's a pretty good one, but we did over 1,300 foot-pounds, 1,500 and plus horsepower, and we never hurt any of the cranks. So it just makes me wonder what a crank will actually take, especially when we're talking about not running it for 500 miles at Daytona or something. We're talking about just running it for the dyno runs or doing drag strip runs. How much abuse will they take before they start to distort or damage themselves? So let me know what you guys think in the comments. But I think that we could run crazy power with these motors without damaging either one of the cranks. And I think we could do that using either one of the heads and either one of the cams. Some will work a little better than others. And honestly, I would feel better knowing that the strength was there and the crankshaft and the better head and all that. But I honestly think that if a guy gives you or you get an early 4200 for a couple $100, you should run it. You should put a turbo on it and you should run it, and we'll be just fine without all of the fancy stuff. But we're going to find out. That's why we test all this stuff. And that's why I'm excited about dyno testing. So we're going to take the head and the 4200. My buddy Derek's going to pick that up, and they're going to get the rest of the head bolts out of all of them that I snapped. They're going to fix the head. Then I'll have that 06 head to do a head swap on the 05 motor. We're going tomorrow morning, my buddy Mark Sanchez and I were to do a video on this. We're going to go to the wrecking yard and bring a battery and bring a compression tester, and we're going to test one or more, depending on how many we have to go through to finally get a good one. We're going to test some of these early motors. We'll do crank and compression tests on them with the battery and with our remote starter deal. And that way we'll be able to at least have a fairly good idea that we have even compression across the board before we get that motor pulled out. And then I can run one of those on the dyno and get started on 4200 stuff, because I'm very, very excited. Now, I don't know if Mark is here yet. I'll have to take a look. If you are, Mark, I've got a couple questions for you. As a matter of fact, I want to do that now. So we'll do that on camera. Let me grab this box over here. Yeah, we got an unboxing. What's up? So I wanted to give a shout out to Mark over at what is it? Tech Motorsports? Is that what that is? Let me make sure I got the name right. I think I did. Yeah, EM Tech. Okay, so thanks, Mark, because he's done a lot of stuff with the ECU. Like he did the harness, which we have here. See, very cool. It's all marked for us so that we know how to put it on. And I want to give another shout out to the guys at MS3 Pro. Thank you for hooking us up with a computer so that we can make all this work. And we might be running this Mega Squirt on lots of stuff, so it'll be cool. Evo, yo, what's up? So Mark, if you're watching this, or if you watch this or are watching this, let me know what these are for. Let's see, there's my camera up there. So let me know what all those are for. We've got our comm cables and stuff. With our fancy ECU here. Oh, I can't. I keep trying to reach down where my camera normally is, but that's pretty cool. So we'll be able to run that, and I'm hoping we'll be able to try that on a couple of different motors. One of them, I was just over with my buddy Eric from West Tech, who is the tuner extraordinaire and will be responsible for making all of this work and then showing me how to tune it. Once I know what buttons to push to add fuel and take away fuel, and add timing and take away timing, I'm pretty much set. I like that because it's got it also has an internal map sensor, which we can plug in and run boost on everything, which would be cool. I like that this harness, thanks again, Mark, this thing is all wired and has been tested and it already works. So that's always good news. But what I want to do, and Julius, yes, I ask you a question, because I was contacted after I did the video, after I put the video up on the 4200. Unfortunately, we didn't get to dyno test it because it was broke. But after I did that video, and after we keep talking about this being the Ameri-Barra, I was contacted by a couple of guys that said, hey, look, if you're going to do this, you actually have to run a Barra too. So that might be in the works. So it'll be interesting to compare it, and I wanted to get your guys' opinion. If we run, and what I would run is not the turbo Barra, we would run one of the naturally aspirated ones and then add boost to that. And the reason that we would do that is, there are a couple of reasons. One is because the NA Barra is going to make more power NA than a turbo version would because of the higher compression and stuff. So it will make more power NA. So then, therefore, it will also make more power under boost than the turbo version. And again, I don't think we're going to get to the strength limit of the internals of the Barra until a very, very high power output. So my idea is to run the 4200 NA and then do a few mods to it, run the Barra NA and then do a few mods to it, and then run them, well, we'll run them with boost stock, and then we will do mods, and then we will do boost. And then so they both get subjected to the same kinds of things, and we'll find out how they both compare. I'm not going to do absolute maximum power numbers on these because there's lots of guys out there that have done drag racing versions that make 1 million horsepower. Guys can do that, but it'll be interesting to see what these things do stock NA, and then what they do under boost, and then what they do when we're modified. And we'll do the tip things. We'll do we'll do ring gap, we'll do a ported head, we'll do cams. And in looking at the specs of the two motors and the factory rated power outputs, it's going to be kind of interesting. I mean, one's 4.2 liters, one's 4 liters. They both have pretty good heads. They both have, in looking at, we were able to find some information on the factory cam profiles, and they both have like really mild cams in them, which means that we suspect that cams will really pick these motors up, which will be good. And then I have the Jason over at JT Fab has the intake manifold mostly done. I mean, he's got we have the head flange and standoffs for the runners, and then he has the plenum done, and he has the other runners flared and they're ready to go in. So that should be done pretty quickly as well. And then if we have to, we'll also make a version of that for the Barra, because especially here in the United States, there's not going to be a big, I can't go to super shops. I'm dating myself. You can't just go to the local speed shop and pick up Barra speed equipment because it doesn't exist. So let's see that's what we're doing. If you guys want to take a walk out, I can show you. We should do that really quick. I've got battery and hopefully we have a signal. So we'll go out and take a look at the my crusty junkyard motor. Get my camera here. Get that on top of there. So hopefully we should be able to take a little walk here. Turbo, pure turbonium. Blower and a tunnel ram. Super awesome. And nitrous. Because you got to have it all, right? Got to get out of here before it gets too dark, you know. What's up? Make sure I don't lock myself out. And I speak from experience because I have that before. There's a truck. I'm hoping I don't walk too far away from the signal here from West Tech. Let's see what happens. Let's see. Stay with me. Stay with me. Stay with me. Here we go. Oh, yeah. Got the attire. Got the seat belt. That's like all junkyard. That's full junkyard. Pinched exhaust. Loosely strapped to the back of the truck. So now what I got to do is I got to take that thing over and hose it off because, you know, we don't want to bring that thing into the dyno. Mr. Roulette probably won't like that. He doesn't like when Richie brings over these junkyard motors. Poor Steve. He puts up with a lot. I'm not easy to go along with. So we'll go back over to our little spot over here. So what you guys got going on? Wah, wah. Okay, we'll get you guys plugged back in here. See what's up. Fix my camera. Yeah, there we go. What's up? Now we're talking. See if I can sit down. Okay. Okay, let's see what you guys got going on here. A lot of cool stuff. Yes, Julius, the Aussie Speed manifold is here at West Tech. I'll do a box opening to take care of those guys tomorrow when we do our live feed. So I've got that over there. As a matter of fact, you know what? Let's not even wait. Let's do that now. Yeah, from Australia. Dude, this thing is awesome. So for you Slant 6 fans out there, there's all kinds of, I told you it was Mopar madness tonight, right? Yeah, look at this. Yeah, Aussie Speed. Yeah, super cool. Super coolness. Oh, dude, it's that swag. I got a shirt. Dude, that's awesome. I'm going to have to send them a shirt. That is fantastic. So, let's see what we got going on here. Oh, big old throaty 4-barrel manifold. I like it. Tear into this. Kind of like Christmas. Come on, we got to get low. Get low. Get low. There we go. You need a razor blade or a knife for dynamite. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, that is so much better than the Super 6 manifold I've got on there. Aussie Speed, what's up? Dude, look how fancy that thing is. Yeah, Aussie Speed's in the house. Look at that. I can't wait to test it. I like the fact that, man, all those rudder lights look really nice. I like that this set right here, wrapped around, looks a little bit like the header that I have over on the 4200. That'd be cool. And I talked to Dulcich. He's got a couple of other manifolds too for the Slant 6 that we're going to be able to test. So we'll be able to run a bunch of them. It'd be cool. Thanks, guys, from Aussie Speed. Awesome, awesome. What's up? Dude, that's super cool. Need that. And then needs boost. So I can see the CSU carburetor going right on that blow through carburetor. That'd be awesome. So what do you guys got going on? Cool guys, Kiss Pistons, nice. Let's see what we got going on. Ozman, what's up? Sean said he's seen Pro Mod motors throw rods on the next pass after a hard shake. Yeah, the shake's hard on stuff. It's good factor. Julius, so you need me to get you a Barra. Julius, I recommend green top LPG engine with EFI and valve springs. I've got somebody out here that has a bunch of them coming that they're gonna supply me one, Julius. So I obviously appreciate the offer and I will hit you up. But I think we're gonna run the later NA motor. Let's see, Tom, how are you going to extract the head bolts? I'm told that if we can drill it and use an easy out that they'll come out. Actually, I'm not going to have to do that. The guy L&R is going to have to take care of that. Oh, Tristan, let's see. I built and tuned North Stars for Fiero applications. That seems like a good combination. I wish there were cam options for them that didn't cost thousands, but they can make 335, 345 wheel, no problem through a 4T80. Do they make that? Do they make that NA, Tristan? That would be interesting. Julius has a gray top Barra. I obviously want the one with the red valve cover just because, you know, that means it's Type R. The signal's better outside, and man, I'll have to go out there. Yeah, Mark's saying that they're not too hard to get out. It's easy out in a drill, and you just reverse them. Why didn't people talk about ring gap in 1990? I'm pretty sure that's what blew up all my first builds. You and me both. I've done that a lot. I've had short blocks put together, and I honestly I don't even remember checking the ring gap on them. Let's see, Mark, have you ever tested 1 3/4 versus 1 7/8 long tubes on a 6-liter? Yes, I have. There's not a lot of difference between those two. Let's see, pound for pound, cube for cube, which is better, a Gen 2 Hemi aluminum heads or Gen 3? Like a Gen 2 426 head? I don't know what the flow rate is on a 426 head. But I would pick a later Hemi than I would pick the earlier Hemi only because they're cool. But if I wanted to make power, I would pick a later one. Yeah, it is pretty bright. I think that these are Kinsler injection. Man, I want to get somewhere where we're not seeing so much white. I know what I need to do. I need to move this thing back up. Or moving the camera back up. Aim down. Is that better? Not really. This is just it's really just a lot of white here. Just a lot of white. Let's turn you just a little bit. Yeah, it just all wants to be white, doesn't it? Zing! Okay, I'm gonna clean the camera. Blackout. Oh, that's not working that well. Okay, so let's see what you guys got going on. Yeah, Julius, it's all here. It's all good. Man, I don't know why my camera's freaking out. So you got your shirt. Yep, shiny parts, shiny parts. I haven't had any Red Bulls. I do need some, though. That'd be good. Let's see who else. Richard, I have a couple roller cams for that Magnum. I do want cams to test. I think the guys from Comp will probably send us some stuff. The early Gen Hemi heads have had valve seat issues. When do you think you run the 3076s? I do want to run those. I want to compare them to the GT3582s. Talk to Pack Springs. These Pack 1219, 348 open pressure, 135 seat, and 340 rate combined with 1.8 stainless steel. You're still on the stainless rocker thing, huh? Aaron's working on a 400 big block Mopar, keeping it stock stroke. So very uncommon since it's about everything strokes these. Yeah. Yeah, this engine's cool. Freiburger is going to be testing it. Yeah, that Aussie speed manifold looks really, really good. Really super cool. I need to really get in. I need to find a better spot. Oh, I need to find some better camera angles. Let's see here. That's not going to help us. Let's find some new stuff. Take a little walk around here. That's actually better. I wonder if we could do it right here. Yeah, that'll be good. Man, it still wants to get really white, doesn't it? We just don't like that. We just don't like that. That's not good either. Let's see. Come down here. There we go. Let's see. Got a couple of cool motors in the background. There we go. And I'll just stand here. I got my I got a carburetor rest on. This is cool. Get a little camera shake there. Tim, why are you wearing a foil helmet? I've not messed with the Ford 3-liter V6 from the 2000s. Lunar Outlaws Garage got a 440 pull from Junkyard. Nice. I'd like to have a. I want to get a 440. I like the late model Hemi stuff too. I was very impressed by the 5.7 that we ran with the variable intake manifold and the variable cam. It's an impressive like power combination. The blue, Julius, the blue top is the one to get. I just like the red color. I was doing some research on the Barra stuff today, so I was just taking a look at all the different combinations of different cam timing and different compression and different heads that they use and intake manifolds and rods and things like that to see, you know, kind of what we would test. Tom, the high output quad 4 stuff was like 200. Would adding ring gap to an NA motor hurt anything? No. We didn't seem to lose any power from the ring gap when we did the all LS testing. Yeah, the Dodge stuff is getting pretty expensive. Brandon has to take off. Can't stay to watch the live stream. Thanks for showing up, man. ProCharge 32. You will never have a Barra motor like the Aussies. I think we'll have one exactly like that. What's the setup on the big ball? I don't know what it is. I'd have to ask Freiberger. That's one that they're testing for Engine Masters. Don't ever use your shirt. I don't have any plans for a North Star. I would like to run one. I would just like to put one up there that I know runs, and then run it NA and then add boost to it, and not try to do a bunch of stuff with it. I would be up for doing something like that. Take a look at the HO versions, Tim, of the Quad 4. Yeah, I didn't have good luck with the head bolts on the 4200. I broke every one of them, and I went through a couple of sequences of one of the things that was suggested, I think by Mark, is that you pound on it with a hammer, and we did that. And what I did was, the way that we normally get stuck bolts out is we try to tighten it just a little bit, and then we loosened it just a little bit, like one click, and then we put a drift and a hammer, and hammered each one of them a few times, and then tried it again. It still felt bad, and we hammered them again and tried it again. And then after that, I just well, no, these are coming out right now. And maybe more hammering. Maybe if I put tension on it and hammer it, maybe I wasn't hitting it hard enough. Maybe I need to not hit it with my purse and just make it happen. Admiral, extra ring gap can cause oil consumption. The amount that you're changing it, I don't know that that's going to be the case. Oh, say, Mark, you're going to hook me up with the Type R valve cover? That's cool. Does ring flutter act in a similar way on a graph to floating the valves? No, because floating valves stops the power completely. I don't think ring flutter is going to do that. Ooh, a 588 B1. Oh, nice. Okay, Joyce, here's some information. So the gray top is 9.7 to 1 with the skinny rods. The green top is 10.3 with the forged rods from the turbo engine. The red top is 8.8. I don't want that with the forged rods. All cam specs and head flow is the same. So it looks to me like I need a green top one then. Can I change the valve cover just so I can beat full Type R? Is the inline 6 4200 from the Trailblazer GM's best inline 6-cylinder? I think it's probably the most powerful one. So Aaron is saying stock Magnums. Let's see. Did I go the wrong way there? I think I did. Stock Magnums need guide clearance and need to run Hughes engines, 1307B valve locks if you plan to run camshafts larger than 510. So we could change the springs though, right? The springs and the retainers? Hey, Richard, for cam on bucket valve trains, is it worth investing in DLC or other anti-wear coatings for cams? Are you running a lot of valve spring pressure or a lot of RPM or something where the DLC will be necessary? I know the Cup guys use that, especially on the pins. Rockers don't rust. Nice. A 340 versus a Ford 347. with equal heads and induction. How do they compare? Well, the motor, I would put my money on the motor that has the biggest cubic inches. So a 347 would be better than a 340. A 340 has terrible cylinder heads on it from the factory. So anything that's restricted by the factory head is not going to do very well. Let's see. Let's see. Hey, Richard, what are good cams for speed and sound you can recommend for a stock Ford F? I'm sure that's 150, 2-valve 4.6. You would want the smallest cams you could get from comp for that application. Twin Dominators on a B1 tunnel ram and a 64 Fury streetcar. That should be fun. And I like the 64 Furies too. You can also run LA heads on the Magnums. Just have comp send a set of their 1622 rockers, as they offer both oil through the head. If you can use the stock Magnum push rods, they can oil through the push rods. Yeah, because that's the difference between the Magnum and the LA, is that one oils through the head, right, and one oils through the push rod. Supercharged tunnel ram testing. I just showed you guys a photo, or we did a walk around of Freiberger's motor. You did a big block with a roots blower on a tunnel ram, and it does exactly what it does when it's NA. The tunnel ram has longer runners and it makes more power, and it does that under boost too. There's something else different about the 340 and 360 blocks. Skip the 440 and get a low deck 400 as the largest bore and strongest main set. You can really beat on it and still make huge cubic inches. That might be interesting. I just don't see very many 400s. And if I do find something in the wrecking yard and it's a big Mopar, it's normally a 440 in the RVs. Where is the best place to buy a 305 or I don't know if you mean 350 or a 351 Windsor Ford small block from? We get ours from the wrecking yard if you want to get, start with something that's inexpensive. How do you put ring gap in total seal rings? A total seal rings are the manufacturer, so they sell all kinds of different rings. If you mean gapless rings, that's different. Blue top is the swanky FPV stuff. That's really expensive gear and hard to get. And if you don't own an FPV vehicle with a VIN number, Ford won't sell it to you. Wow, they're that strict about it. You have to be an OG blue top owner. Charles, yes, all the bolts broke off in the block. Any plans on doing an LSA engine? Or are you talking about the supercharged LSA motor for the LS engine family? I don't know why you think that I would be able to afford one of those. And we're certainly not going to find one in the wrecking yard. But it's just an LS. I mean, it has some good stuff on it. It has a good blower on it, a decent blower on it. But we've run lots of supercharged stuff and we run lots of LS stuff. So you can extrapolate pretty well for what's going to happen with that motor. Does the Atlas 4200 have replaceable sleeves? I don't know. Chris, what's up? I'm rebuilding an LS4 with new pistons, rings, crank, and rod bearings. Also hone the cylinders. Where do you recommend for break-in oil? They sell actual break-in oil, but the break-in oil normally is a high zinc thing, and that's usually for the lifters and for the camshaft on a flat tappet cam. It's not usually necessary on a roller cam, and that's where you'd be real concerned with. I don't think that the bearings are going to care about what kind of oil is in it. But there are specific break-in oils. When we have stuff from Lucas that we normally use, but there's stuff at the auto parts store too if you want a break-in oil. But like I said, normally it's high zinc, and you're not running in an LS. You're not running a flat tappet cam. As a matter of fact, when we do cam changes, we don't ever break in the camshaft. We put it in there and we run it. Yes, red paint adds 15 horsepower, and if I write Type R on it, then it will be, or VTEC on it too. That will be even better. Tristan, are you doing a cruise? Noodles is out. Got a bug flying around me. He's gone. Is there a single plane? Does anybody know, is there a single plane intake for the Magnum heads that will clear the AC compressor? I don't know specifically because we hardly ever have accessories on any of that stuff. But what I'm going to do with this Magnum, in addition to the other thing that we talked about with the piston flipping, is that we're going to do I have a dual plane intake, and we'll run that and compare it to the EFI intake. Linwood, so you used to comp XE 232, 36, 110 on stock 350 and said it was as big. Yeah, that's getting up near the limit of piston to valve clearance, Linwood. Would it be okay with a 525, 530, 227, 235, 109? Yeah, probably. I would still check it though. Yeah, I've never seen a 440 with cross-bolted mains. Maybe they did one out of a Hemi block or something. You got me to click by putting Barra in the title. See, it's all clickbait stuff. But I was just over with Eric, and we were talking about Barras for, I mean, I'm sure a good hour, because we were looking up all kinds of stuff. We're trying to figure out how to run them on the dyno and figure out what we need to make it work. I think we found, and he discovered that there's an adapter to connect the Barra to a GM bolt pattern for the bell housing. So I think that that's solved. And then we're looking at trying to figure out what harness to run. And obviously we think that I'd like to run it on the Megasport because that's here and we have it. I don't think that the Holly will work to control the variable cam timing. And we want to definitely have that. I want to make sure that that works. Julius, is the green top, is it dual VVT? Is it intake and exhaust? Well, cool. You just sent a Falcon Workshop manual. I like that. Yeah, that was the difference, Aaron. That's right. They have a different main journal size, right? Between the 340 and the 360 Dodge stuff. So I'm still looking for a 340 block or a short block or something. Aaron, I'll have to take a look and see what year this motor came out of. I can't remember. When we go over tomorrow and we're doing the cranking compression stuff, I'll take a look at the vehicle. I can't remember what year it was. Chris says the Mopar M1 will clear AC compressor, at least the EFI version does on his 95 Dakota. So Julius says, with the Bear, if you can get an FG Turbo log intake manifold to test next to the NA broadband intake, you would disprove a bit of a myth that the log is better for all-around power. If it's a log and it's short runner, it's not going to be better. What about the volume reducing plates installed in the kegger, more torque? I honestly, if it's just a change in plenum volume, I seriously doubt that that's going to happen. But I'm always open to testing. Aaron, thank you very much. What big block Mopar is behind you? I think that this one is a 440. I think that that's one of Dulcich's motors. And then there's another one over there from some customer. The Atlas 4200 would be a good Jeep motor. I agree. I think that the let's see, where did that go? It has a really good cylinder head on it. So Tristan, you're doing a diesel? Cool. Chief, hi Richard, which one would you choose for a 450 horsepower engine in a D150 5.7 LA Magnum with Hughes heads, or a late model 5.7 Hemi? The late model Hemi will make I think more power. It's going to have a better head than any of the Magnum or LA heads. So I think it'd be a lot easier for you to make that power. So if you have more head flow, what you can do is get that power output with a smaller camshaft, which is usually beneficial for drivability and stuff. Richard, PM me if you need more information on the Barra. There's lots of myths about the Barra. Cool, thanks. Charles wants to know, for the purpose of circuit racing, SCCA, NASA on non-slick cars with higher RPM, is a dry sump worth the expense and effort? I would say yes, or at the very least have an AccuSump, which is the sealed container that's pressurized. That if your setup loses pressure, it kind of feeds that. Those are good depending on what kind of courses that you run on. If you're getting high G loads, I know you said they're not slick, so the G loads are not going to be quite as much. But if you have any kind of downforce, or the other thing that happens is a lot of times we'll run courses where we go up on the banking. And if you're on the banking for a sustained amount of time, dry sump is really, really good. I mean, it's really good to begin with, and it can save your engine, but it does cost money. Let's see, Aaron, when do you get into piston to valve clearance on a roller 351 with stock heads and pistons? You mean what camshaft do you get into it? Usually in the low to mid 230s at 50. Power 123, Elbrock makes an air gap intake. That's the one that I would put on a Magnum. Jack thinks that the 4200 will do better than the Barra. It's rated at more power. At least the later 4200 is rated at more power than the Barra is. So, and it's bigger, so it will be interesting to see. Make sure the water inlet is on the passenger side. Oh, we can run a Haltech on the Barra? Do they already have it set up to run, Julie, so they already have it set up to run the variable cam timing, VCT on both cams, T5 is a factory trans. But what is the bell housing though? What is it a small block forward? Is it a modular forward? Is it the same as anything? Straight six EcoBoost. Yeah, that's what everyone was saying, is that Haltech would be kind of the way to go. I just want to make sure, because what I want to do is run the stock 4200 NA and then the stock Barra NA. I mean, we're going to have open exhaust on it, no accessories and that kind of thing. But I want to be able to say, hey, these motors do this in basically stock trim with a stock intake and heads and cam and bottom end and all of that. Just the way that we run them on the dyno. So we want to see what the difference is between those two. Should you mill your intake if you've milled your heads 20,000s? 20,000s might not be enough. You just have to check it. You have to put it on and see if it will line up, see if the both holes will line up. I don't know if car prices will drop over the years. Shane is building another Jeep inline six stroker. That's cool. I'll text hook up to the, I'm sure, Barra engine already. And like I said, Adam LZ put a Barra and it's burnt up. GT300 hooked up to the factory, 8-speed trans. I think a lot of guys just want the inline six-cylinder stuff because it's different. Power 123, what's up? Edelbrock makes an air gap intake for the Magnum that allows AC compressor. Yeah. This was answered to a previous. I already read your answer. You don't have to step up with some money, man. I'll take care of you. But thank you. John's out. Yeah, Mike, a 250 inline six with LS LS heads on it would be good. Yeah, the Mondi 888, the trans, we're not as concerned about the transmission. We're concerned about the bell housing. What is the bell housing pattern on the back of the block? Is it worth any horsepower matching your exhaust ports to your headers? I don't think so. Only if it improves the flow rate of your head, which I don't think it will. Are there any 392 Hemi videos coming? No. I don't know where I would find one of those. Have you ever worked on, or would you consider working on a 265 Australian Hemi 6? I've never even seen one, except on the internet. I think we can run the Barra. We won't know until we talk to the guys at Megasquirt. I think we can run the Barra off of the Megasquirt. We just need to, we'll just get it running. I was talking to Eric about it, and he can just get it running because I think that those are 58X. And if that's the case, we can just run it as we can start it up as just a Oasis spark and just run it off of the crank signal, and hopefully get the guys from Megasquirt a data log, and then they can see what's going on and write a code for it so that we can get everything working. It shouldn't be too big of a problem. It might be real similar to the 4200. I've run for Promax heads on a lot of different things, and every one I've run has worked pretty well. Matt, I want to go to HP Tuner's unlimited credit system, but I'm worried about the future of tuning software because of the EPA. That's an honest concern. He might mean a Gen 3 392 Hemi, so then just a Gen 4 Hemi. That's what I call them. I haven't done anything with the Vortec 8100 yet, the Gen 7 big block. Yeah, I don't have any of the 6.4 Hemis, and nobody I know has one that, that will let me run it. Young says, Richard, I have a Barra T5 bell housing if you need some information on. I just want to know what it is. Is it the same as anything else? Michael, every cam is a turbo cam, in fact. What are your concerns with running the Barra with the Megasquirt? We want to make sure that it recognizes the cam and crank signals, and that it can control VVT. Are 190cc intake runners big enough for a 406 small block street cruiser? Yeah, if you're only making, well, 406 is pretty good size. A 190cc AFR head would be good. Somebody else's 190cc head might not make nearly as much power. So Jewish think the bell housing is the same as a later Windsor housing? Well, there's no later Windsor. There's only, unless you're talking about a mod motor, but because all of the Windsor stuff, all of the 351 and 302 and 289, 260, 221, all of those are the same, right? All the early ones might be different. Barra and single overhead cam Intech has its own pattern. Nothing else is closed. So, well, then I think we've already solved that, because they do have an adapter to go from the Barra to a GM, so that's not a problem. That's like the adapter plate that EM Tech did on that Mark did for the 4200. I would like to run a Viper V10. What are your thoughts on the future of modified vehicles? I hope it continues. Roadrunner, I do have trick flow heads for it, so that'd be good to build a 400 Mopar. Shane, that sounds like a good combination. Mike, I'm going to do some slant six stuff. We're going to use that Aussie Speed manifold and a couple of others too that we get to test. Brother, the Barra is a 36 minus 1. Mark, for your pre-runner deal, the thing that I'd be worried about is the oiling system on those. '69 Charger. I don't see single plane intake and headers MSD. 250, 256, 12 to 1, 440. Trick flow 240s. I'm thinking that should go over 600, right? I don't have any Coyotes right now. Would you even consider doing NA463 valve content? I've already done a bunch. I've already tested 3 valves, a lot of 3 valve stuff. I don't think I have any videos up other than the boosted stuff. $36 minus 1 for the crank and 3X for the cam. See, we're showing different stuff. We've got a we downloaded, and it's showing a 58X, and I don't know if they changed them, and it's showing some sort of 4X cam, but with but not an even 4X. It's got different missing teeth. Any chance you can do some trans tuning for a GM product? I don't do tuning on the SET or any of the factory stuff. We guys are commenting about the VVT. We want to have VVT. VVT broadens the power curve, and since everybody wants me to run from off idle all the way to past red line when we do these dyno pulls, having VVT and also it needs to be there to demonstrate what the stock motor does, what it's capable of. Bosch 210s would be big. Do you need that much injector for what you're doing? What are the limits of a 2-valve single overhead cam V8? That's a pretty broad question. Which motor is it? Are you talking about RPM limit or boost limit, or what are you talking about there? Yeah, Mike, I'm excited about doing stuff with the guys from Australia. That's kind of why that's why I'm entertaining the idea of doing this Barra. I think if we're going to talk about the Ameri-Barra being the equivalent or as good or partly as good as the Barra, we need to see what that one does. Obviously, we see lots of, everybody makes a big deal about huge internet things, just like when somebody says, well, what's an LS do? They say, well, look, Richard did 1,540 horsepower with a stock bottom end. That doesn't mean that people are out there actually racing it like that, although probably some guys are. And just like with the Barra stuff, there may be some guys out there making really big power. Like with a perfect example is the 2J motor. And I would like to compare a 2J motor too, because I honestly think that the 4200 and the Barra NA will make way more power than a 2J does. I don't think a 2J would even compete. And I think that if you ran them all at 10 pounds of boost, the 2J won't even compete. It won't be in the same league as these motors because it doesn't make nearly as much NA power. It's smaller and it doesn't have a better cylinder head and it doesn't have better camshafts and it's smaller. And in the turbo versions, obviously, and the turbo versions of the Barra is like that too, having lower compression kills NA power as well. So I honestly think that what the 2J has going for it is like a ton of potential. I think that the iron block on that, it'd be hard. The other guys would be hard pressed to make that kind of power. Maybe the Barra could. I don't know if the 4200 aluminum block would be able to get to the kind of power levels that guys make in the 2J because they're running, everything else in the motor is aftermarket and they're running, huge amounts of boost and lots of RPM and all that in a full race application, but the block is still the production block and they can make a lot of power. I don't know that the other two can do what that one does in an absolute term like that when you're talking just about the block. But I don't think a stock bottom end 2J will do what these guys will do. I don't think a stock bottom end 2J goes over, I've never seen one go over 1,000 horsepower. Yeah. No, they've also mentioned off idle, Tim. They want me to load it at 500 RPM. I know. I don't understand that. But, that's the kind of thing. When I was talking to Uncle Tony about that, I said, look, because he was talking about I wouldn't be able to dyno test the piston flipping thing because it's how hard it hits the converter. And I'm like, well, if we can't test it on the engine dyno, which I think we would be able to see it anyway, you surely could do that on the chassis dyno because if you're idling the thing at 500 RPM and then you just nail the throttle and there's a transition to hitting the converter, then you'll be able to measure that on the chassis dyno. You'll be able to measure a change in the rate of acceleration, which you would get from a performance gain. If it hits the converter harder, you'd be able to see that. So there's a way to measure it and to see if there is a difference. I want to see if there's a difference. There's not a difference. I don't care what it is, but I just want to know whether it's there or not. Is it possible to run a knock sensor with timing gears? Anything that we do to the motor to make it non-stock seems to upset the factory knock sensors, because they're tuned to a specific frequency. So if you put a solid motor mount or roller rockers or anything that's, or just put it for our case, if we just put it on the dyno, because of the drive on the dyno and stuff, it hears all of that stuff and it freaks out. The Ameri-Barra needs better sleeves, so you think that that's the limiting factor? Ooh, Norfolk, a 7M cylinder head, which I like the early ones, is much better than a 2J head. Nice. So why aren't people doing big power with the 7Ms? 1,000 absolute limit for a 2J. I'd like to see a stock bottom end 2J. I don't think anybody ever does that. I mean, I don't, maybe all of that was happening before we started doing this. I don't know that I've ever seen anybody take a stock bottom end 2J with ring gap and make that happen, especially the turbo version, which I think probably has a better rod and a better piston and stuff. The knock sensor filter should take care of that. The knock frequency is determined by the cylinder diameter. So the detonation is determined by the bore. Mike's out. Just got to the chat and I see a big block Mopar. Yeah, here 440 and some kind of big block Chevy, which I think is like a 478 or something. So the dimensions of the board determine the frequency? So would the frequency change then if the piston is lower in the bore? You guys are still talking about the 406 build? If you're doing a 190, put a dual plane on it, puts like a 224 cam in it, and you're on your way. Hope you got the 4-board GM map sensor I sent to Westech a few months ago. If you need any crazy electronics, let me know. So you're the guy that sent that? We didn't know who that was. It's been sitting around for a long time. Thank you very much. Electric Geek, I'm 17 and looking for car knowledge, and I'm getting it. Good. We're glad you joined us. I do all kinds of microprocessor programming, so I can do absolutely anything. Cool. Do you know anything about the internet? Yes, they're talking about knock sensors. Talking about the frequency of knock sensors. Let's make some noise. So just the bore diameter sets the center frequency of the knock sound, and a knock sensor is just, we know that it's a microphone, but it can't just be the bore. That can't be the only thing that determines the frequency, because we know that because when we change roller rockers, it sets the knock sensor off. When we hook it up to the dyno with solid motor mounts, it sets the knock sensor off. When we have the lash in the drive for the dyno, it sets the knock sensor off. And the bore size has not changed at all. So it can't just be that. It's got to be something else. So Tim is saying that the 7M GE heads flow like 195, which is not great, and the 2J flows 220, which is better. Obviously, that's not what the Barra head I think flows, or the 4200. You're going to advance. So you want to know how to put the crank gear in there? Or do you want to advance or retard the cams? I mean, that's what you're going to do. We normally play with those to find out if there is any power. And when we do it, we don't normally do it down at the crank. You can, because they have, like, the smaller Chevys and smaller Fords have the crank gear that you can adjust. They also have cam gears that you can adjust. And on the modular deal, you may have adjustable cam gears on it because they sell those. But either way, that's what you're going to do: advance and retard the camshaft. Long Island Supercars, thank you very much. That's awesome. I will reach out to you. As a matter of fact, send me an email so that I have your contact information. Make sure. Information. Innovators West, we've used their stuff before. Yeah, we know how to change. We know that we can change the frequency, and we can filter stuff out. As a matter of fact, the OEMs spend a lot of time making sure that the frequency that they're listening for, they spend a lot of time tuning exactly to the motor. The problem is when you change something on the motor, you now can interject other noises that the thing might hear that it didn't hear before, because when everything was the way that it is from the factory, there aren't other noises that set that off. And then when you change things, all of a sudden now you make other sounds that set it off. Frequencies. What can I do to get more power out of my 2014 5.7 Hemi in a truck? Looking for build with more low-end torque. The low-end torque thing is going to be hard to get. Do you have a dual runner intake manifold on it? 14. I wonder if you can, well, you might not be able to have the switching capability on that. Long tube headers can help with low speed power. Displacement can help. Compression can help. You're not going to really do anything with cam timing unless you can do a variable cam. I don't know if your motor has that. Yeah, Mark, that's what I'm talking about, is that when you introduce a bunch of other different noises that weren't there from the factory, they overlap. And so that's why they're setting it off, because they're in an overlapping the same frequency range. Derek, I went out and showed you guys the 559 Magnum. I have it in the back of my truck. I went and picked it up today from the wrecking yard. What would you say is the top speed on a stock bottom M53? The top speed in a vehicle? You gotta tell me what kind of vehicle it is. We have listened to detonation through a simple copper tube that we bolt to the head, and you can definitely hear it when it happens. The problem is, just like with tuning the knock sensor from the factory or aftermarket one to listen for a certain frequency, you have to teach yourself what you're listening to, and it's really, really noisy. There's a lot of shit going on. It's very loud. But what you do is, if you can make the thing detonate, and you know, not heavy detonation, light detonation, and you know what you're listening for, then your ear can hear that. And then and we did this with my Engine Masters motor, because we didn't have a way to listen for detonation. We didn't have any sensors to do that. So we had to run these things on pump gas, and we wanted to run as much compression as we could, and as much timing and all that, so that we could make as much power as we could, because that's how you do well in Engine Masters. And what we did was hook the tubing up and ran the tubing into the control room, and then we were listening with that, actually with a stethoscope and earphones, so that I've got to move because we're running out of battery now, so that we could listen to that. And after you hear it and you know what to listen for, you can actually determine and hear when it's knocking. It's kind of cool, but it's very, very loud, and I don't know that I would do that anymore. I would let I would really let the experts do that, the knock sensor itself. Let's see. Okay. Okay, let's see what we got going on here. Let's see, will you do Indy cylinder heads for the Magnum? Probably not. I don't think I've ever worked with the guys from Indy cylinder heads. All right, Joyce, you have a good day, man. Monday, I like all of them. V6s, inline sixes, there are different motors that I like. There are most of them that I do like. As a matter of fact, it's hard for me to look up, look down there, and get the camera. Let's try another viewpoint over here. You guys don't need to look at me. You guys look at motors. It'll be cool. See if we got some cool stuff going on over here. See if I can get this thing mounted. That's not working. Come on, cooperate with me. Here, got an infinite loop now. You guys can look at yourself. It's kind of cool. It's like Alice in Wonderland. To the looking glass. What else we got? We got this thing over here. Kind of cool. 440 over there. I know what that is. Another big block, I think. Yeah. Turbo motor over there. Got a dragster up there. There's a tunnel ram way over there. Tunnel ram and a blower. There's another tunnel ram right there. Lots cool goings on here at West Tech. Let's see here. You guys can look off it. So much fun. Okay, here we go. Let's make some noise now. Okay, guys, what do we got going on here? Never seen what the live stream looks like from the other side. See, that's what happens. Yep, do it the smoky way. Check the spark plugs for aluminum. Is there an engine I don't like? I don't like the ones that break. 4200 inline 6, I believe, is what that's what we are calling the Ameri-Barra, yeah. What Magnum head should I use? I don't know. I think Edelbrock makes some. Does Engine Quest still make their? I thought that they had some as well. There's an American Barra. What vehicle to come out? It's not technically a Barra motor, but that's what we're calling it. We're calling it the Ameri-Barra. It came out of a Trailblazer. Turbo specs, turbine specs, trim 74 millimeter, 64, 55 compressors. Levi, was there a question about that? Let's see. Turbo question. I'm thinking about running an internal wastegate, T3, T4. Let's see. Here are the specs. What are you running that on? $74, 64, 55, 86. Compressor specs are 48. That's a pretty small one. I think that's kind of small for an LS. $52.76. Well, how much power are you trying to make? I haven't run any fuel temperature tests. The guys from Engine Masters covered that pretty well. Yeah, I'll check out the guys from Hughes Engine. Man, I just wish that this. I lost myself. What are you looking at? Okay, got about 2 more minutes. Let's see. True, tight, colder. I like my Edelbrock head, small chamber for higher compression. Pricey though. I think TrickFlow has heads, and TrickFlow has heads that allow the LA manifolds on it or something. S14, find out what is the air fuel. And if you're down at 18, it's not a plug gap misfire unless you have a broken plug. What is the dwell on the, or what ECU are you running, and how much spark energy do you have? What's the dwell? All of that stuff. Yeah, Levi, that's pretty small for, especially for a 5.7. If you had a 4.8, you might have a little bit more of a chance, but it won't make 500 to the wheels, Levi. I think Tim was talking about more like 500 crank horsepower, so 400 to the wheels, and I think you're gonna have a really high back pressure on that thing. It's so cheap to get turbos that will make a lot more power than that. I'd like to go 4200 Vortec and a 99 Trailblazer S10. Any advice? Yeah, you should do it. Am I driving home tonight? No, not again. Yeah, 11.5 with the LS coils are fine. 3.5 millisections should be okay on the Dwell. BR8ES, all of that should be good. So something's wrong. You have a bad coil, maybe a bad wire, a bad plug. Yeah, Levi, if you had 2 of those turbos, then you'd be talking. The 360 motor is out in my truck. Happy to help, Levi. Yeah, get a GT45 or something like that that's going to make 700 horsepower. You'll be happier with that. Norfolk saying that you should try the Hyundai Sonata factory turbos. The problem is it's hard to find 2 of those. It's so easy to find stuff, cheap stuff on eBay. There's lots of good turbos. Well, there's lots of inexpensive turbos on eBay that you can use. How do you stay so fit? I'm I'm probably in the worst shape right now that I've ever been. The COVID thing hit me pretty hard. I'm trying to get back into shape though. Yeah, hopefully if we do the 4200 stuff, and the same thing with the Barra here in the United States. I mean, it probably has a big following in Australia. If we do some Barra stuff and show people, hey, if you use this ECU or this harness, and you can do this and make this kind of power, then maybe you guys will start doing intake manifolds or things. If somebody out there knows who's done some ported heads for these things, please let me know, and we'll. I want to get maybe we'll talk to Jeremy at Faster and see if he can do something with them. No, I haven't been out. I haven't been out snake hunting. I got to do a couple of quick trips when I took my son over. He's umpiring, and so when I took him over to where he was umpiring, there's an area around there that has a couple of good places to look. I found a few alligator lizards and rabbits and quail and a mother goose that was sitting on her egg, and but I didn't find any snakes over there. Call me for details on the plug mod. Okay, is that are those the plastic pieces that I showed you, Mark? Yeah, S14 brother brought up a good question or a good point. Will it just free rev at RPM without boost? If it will, then it's not probably a spring thing or valve float. Let's see. I've heard that the 4200s heads don't have much room to port before water jackets. I don't know. The flow numbers that I've seen, at least the ones that Mark showed me, were pretty impressive. Let's see, when the 06 head is at the machine shop, get them to remachine the spark plug seats for 3/4 flat. Oh, okay. Flat gaskets, okay. So right now it has a tapered seat, and it's that silly tapered, like 1-inch reach plug too. Yeah, we were looking for replacements for that here. Westech didn't have it either. Okay, guys, I got to get going. I've got to go actually clean off the Magnum motor and get it ready to test. And then hopefully they're picking up the 4200 tomorrow. Let's see. I'd be careful on the plug machine. There'd be water in those woods. How many people would port the 4200 heads? They work pretty well right now. Yeah, Mark, we got it. You want it to not be a tapered seat. You want it to be a flat and 3/4 instead of 1-inch, because I think that has the long plugs in it. Supercars, I sent you my email address. So the 2.7 liter turbo is the hot setup, Tim. They have EVT and variable lift. Ooh. Linwood got it in there at the last second. Thanks everybody for showing up. I got some stuff to do, and hopefully, I'm hoping we're able to do the video tomorrow on doing the cranking compression while we're at the wrecking yard, which will be fun. And I get to spend some time with my buddy Mark, who lets me stay at his place, which is awesome. And it would be nice to hang out with him. He's like OG 5-liter stuff, man. He's back in the Kaufman days and Advanced Engineering West. He's done a lot of really, really cool stuff with Mahovitz and all these guys. So he's always cool to hang out with. He's got lots of projects over at his place. We're going to go in there and crank a few of these over and find out, if we can find a good one, and then hopefully get it over here. I will see you guys tomorrow.